would like now to turn to John Pello. John is CEO of a Canadian Council of Christian Charities, which is called CCCC, and that is to say far more important than CC, Comité de la Charte. John, you have an experience of international transaction of donation, especially because you are Canadian, very close to the US, and there is some permeability between the two countries.
Yes, in Canada, we would talk mostly about the United States in terms of money flows and whatnot, but I thought I would just talk about three scenarios. The first two are really quick ones, and then the main one. But fundraising, for instance, the public broadcasting television stations along the US-Canadian border do an awful lot of fundraising in Canada. And there's no problem with an external charity coming and raising money. We're not concerned about that because there's no Canadian tax reduction benefit. So if you wish to give to a foreign charity, if you give to an American charity, you get an American tax receipt, and you can only use that against American income. So it has no tax implications here in Canada. So there's really no concern about that. The second would be, and again, it's most often American charities, they think of Canada as that 10% market, or 10% of the size. So if you want to grow your business by 10%, you open up in Canada. So a lot of times what happens is they'll open a charity in Canada so they can give charitable tax receipts. But what prevents the problem is it's not a charitable activity to fundraise. That's not charitable. So if a charity is started just to funnel money to a foreign charity, it will no longer exist. It will be shut down because it's not operating as a charity. So that prevents that problem from happening. Now, the third one that I'll talk about, and this is the more complex one, is this international flow of money and how do you track that. I think the starting place in Canada would be very different from here in France, because what I'm hearing here in France is your starting position is suspicion. What are they doing? That's entirely the opposite. In Canada, we would say, why would you not be part of a network? Virtually every Canadian charity of any size will have an association, most often with a charity maybe that was started in the United States. So for us, the Americans are our partners. And it offers economies of scale. We don't have to duplicate infrastructure overseas. Why would you set up the cost of doing your own operations in a foreign country when there's a large global network that you could be working through? So in fact, in Canada, the fact that you are part of a network would actually be very much a positive. It's a more efficient way of getting good works done. Now, the approach taken in Canada is because you get a tax donation, the federal government considers themselves the largest donor because they're subsidizing all of those donations. So they're saying, send the money out of the country, do the good work around the world, good on you, but because the Canadian taxpayer has funded it, we want to have, it's called Canadian direction, control, and supervision over that money through to the end beneficiary. So we do not monitor cash flow, we monitor agreements. And the Income Tax Act of Canada says that all charities have to carry out their own programs themselves, but the interpretation of that is that if you are sending money out of the country, you can do it 5 ways. One is to send it with your own volunteers or staff, because they're under your direction and control. Another would be to hire an agent to work on your behalf in another country. So you have to have an agreement. They have no decision authority at all. You tell them exactly what to do, and they have to give you reports on what they did before you send any more money. Then you have what are called agency agreements, where we say we will work together on something. So you will have an agreement that with a charity in England or the United States, we're going to work not cooperatively, we're going to actually do a project together, if we put 10% of the money in, then we have 10% of the say. The other one would be a joint ministry agreement where we want you to do work on our behalf. And so we will, it's basically like signing a foreign contract. And again, you can enforce that and you get reports back. And then you can also work collaboratively. But all of these require legal agreements to be in place. And what we can do is when we monitor organizations, we can ask to see the agreements with all of the networks. Usually there's only one network per charity that they are part of. And we can determine, are you giving approval for this specific project? So 2 years ago, I was on sabbatical, and I went to a number of third world countries where they received money from Canada. And I thought they might find this very, thinking we were either paternalistic or that we didn't trust them. And in fact, it was exactly the opposite. They said, we have a project that we want done. Canada has said they would fund it. We've negotiated an agreement. We need to have this from Canada, and Canada needs to have this from us. So when we go in to monitor, we can find the agreement. We can find the monitoring reports that they received from their networks. We can find copies of receipts, and everything is documented, so we can follow it right through. So now we do not have the issue at the charity level or the monitoring level that you would have in terms of looking for terrorist funding and so forth. The government has other departments working, I'm assuming, through the banking system that is looking for that. They certainly are not relying on the Charities Directorate of the government to locate that. But that's our experience, is that it is a very positive thing to be associated with charities in other countries. We just want to have it properly documented, and that Canadians, because we have paid for it through the tax system, that we do have control over it.